AskReddit by last cicada 1315. People who had one baby and then decided never again. What happened? My sister had an exceptionally difficult pregnancy that nearly killed her. Her doctor told her a second pregnancy would be even riskier. That's why I am an only child. My mom was so tiny and already had medical issues. We were good. One healthy baby is to be thankful for. Families are expensive. This is how I'm leaning too. After becoming a parent, I realized how much of parenthood is a roll of the dice, the effect on my body, the kid's health, the risk of multiples, how easy the kid is. It might be fine, it might not. We have one easy, healthy kid. Pregnancy birth didn't have a crazy of a negative effect on my body, but who knows what it would be like if we did it again. Adding a second is rolling the dice on a lot of factors. So many people I know had more negative things happen with their second kid pregnancy. I would have loved to have had more than one baby, but we were broke. Daycare is so expensive. Healthcare is so expensive. Clothes and activities and lessons and all the things are so expensive. Quitting after my first was 100% due to financial reasons. You sound like a responsible parent trying to make good decisions for your family at least. And that counts for a whole lot. My sister was going to have a second baby, but he passed away while in the womb. And from there she decided never again. And is just raising my nephew. An old friend had a habit of having seizures. A seizure made her lose a baby. After that she wanted her tubes tied as she felt she wasn't fit to be carrying a baby. She died a few years ago from a seizure, so she would have left roughly a 10-year-old parent less. I kind of respect her decision now. Pregnancy was perfect. Baby was healthy according to the gyn. Had traumatic birth that ended with an emergency C-section. Kid is now 12 and has multiple handicaps and won't ever be able to take part in society. She'll need lifelong care. Never again. My daughter had this experience giving birth to my grandson, except she never had a C-section. He was born blue, resuscitated and lifelined and put into hypothermic therapy. He suffered a severe brain injury, 15 months old now, with spastic and dystonia quadriplegic cerebral palsy. This was her first and now only baby. She is so traumatized and now has a very medically complex and special needs child. She wants to be able to take care of him and meet all of his needs. She doesn't feel she could give enough of herself to either child if she were to have another outside of the trauma of his birth. They moved in with us once he was released from the NICU for the emotional, physical and financial support her dad and I could offer. She will never be the same, in some ways to the positive, and some to the negative. Most people don't understand the level of life-altering experience this is. The pregnancy unleashed triggered some chronic mental health issues for my wife, and she was terribly sick for the first 7 months of the pregnancy. If we try for another, she'll have go off her meds for it, and that's a whole another issue. Edit. The issue was not postpartum depression, although she did suffer that as well, and likely is related to her proper diagnosis, which she received years later after much hardship. The issue I was thinking of was not an autoimmune issue, although she also suffers from one of those, diagnosed separately. I hadn't really connected that to the pregnancy in the same way, but that could be a thing. Yet 1 in 3 mothers has lifelong health issues from pregnancy and birth. That is a scary statistic. Didn't get the help I expected from my other half. Plus kids are expensive. I've also been able to stay home for almost 2 years. Wouldn't be able to do that with a second. The first sentence is why I'm thinking of being one and done too. Edit. More like I didn't get the help I was promised I'd get. We both nearly died in childbirth. Didn't fancy doing that again. She then didn't sleep for more than 3 hours for the next 5 years. Oh, and no family support whatsoever. Fuck doing all that again. Are we the same person? One and done. We don't live near any family and are in a HCOL area. One kid means we can go on fun vacations. I also had a traumatic birth and still remember that doctor telling me to not let this impact my decision on future kids. My kid is great. She calls our dog her sister. I call the dog my other toddler. If I have another baby, I'll need to work double to give both kids a good life. More work means less quality time with my kids, and I don't want my kids to have the same childhood I had. My parents worked their asses off to give my brother and I a good life, good food, school, clothing etc. But they were always working or too tired to play with us or even to have a good family time. They never took us for a walk in the park, never had a movies night at home or anything but Sunday lunches in family where we were supposed to eat quickly without talking, do the dishes and spend the rest of the day without making any noise because dad needed to rest. I am very thankful for my parents and all their sacrifices, but I want my child to have parents that aren't exhausted all the time. Same here. I love my parents and I know they did everything to give me a good life, but forgot to just follow said life and make it happy. Didn't got that family movie night or family play night where Elon not cliches from sitcoms before my ex told me he used to do one each week with his parents. The first year of sleep deprivation absolutely wreaked me. I swore never again. I was up all night long, no sleep, felt like a zombie, got terrible anxiety and depression, always worried about my child. We tried to have a second a couple of years later, casually tried. I must have developed secondary infertility, but looking back, it's for the best. Infertility, went through IVF. Got one embryo and she is now a few months old and is perfect. Tough pregnancy physically but also emotionally. My mom died suddenly when I was 15 weeks. My dad got diagnosed stage 4 cancer the day my daughter was born. Traumatic labor and delivery, induced and needed blood transfusion. Would have to go through IVF again most likely. It has been a year. Sometimes I feel like the universe required me to sacrifice my parents in order to have a perfect baby. I rationally know this is not true and not how it works lol, but sometimes my mind goes there. That sounds extremely tough. Sending you lots of well wishes for your own recovery and to enjoy your little family as it is. Short answer, I like sleep. Long, more serious answer, pregnancy is rubbish. Birth is horrible. Post-birth is horrific. Babies are stressful. I decided I never wanted to put my body through pregnancy again. Plus I'd have to look after my existing child whilst going through it. My baby had a lot of minor issues, but together, they meant a frequently unsettled, windy baby who would cry for long periods, or so it felt, and was hard to get to sleep. I would not be surprised if it's had a deep effect on my mind somewhere, as I don't like not being able to hear him if we're both in the house. Now a toddler, able to make enough noise in several ways. I had a 4th degree tear and then an IVF and then correctional surgery, pelvic floor therapy, PPA and other general anxiety that wasn't so bad until I had a kid. I'd rather be alive and well for 1 than not around for 2. I got postpartum preeclampsia and was hospitalized for 3 days a week after my baby was born. I almost had HELLP. And, I had to see a cardiologist because they thought I might have had postpartum cardiomyopathy. So, never again. Are you me? My preeclampsia turned into HELLP post-birth too. I had twins so they are lucky to have each other. Never again. I'm pregnant with our first and only. I loathe being pregnant and never want to do this again. I remember being halfway through my pregnancy and my milk kept going on about how perfect and wonderful it was to be pregnant, and I remember thinking to myself, what a load of shit. I don't have children, but I am an only child and I absolutely loved it. I don't understand why only children and families sometimes get judged so hard. I really think it can be one of the best family dynamics. Obviously there are downsides, just like with everything, but I have zero complaints and never wanted a sibling. If you're feeling bad about wanting to be one and done, don't. My daughter, who is about to turn 12, has been telling me for years she is glad she doesn't have siblings. We always knew we would have only one. Being pregnant sucked. He ended up being premature and then there was a whole other stuff because he was premature. Postpartum depression, anxiety and psychosis. It was enough to scare us into never trying again. That was truly the most terrifying time in my life and it took away my desire to love my newborn. I still have guilt to this day, 13 years later, for not giving our son a sibling. I got pregnant while on birth control, hoovering, when he was 5, but miscarried at 14 weeks. It may sound weird, but I took that as a sign that we did the right thing by not having any more. Please don't feel guilty about not giving your child a sibling. I'm an only child and I can't imagine my life with a sibling. You get used to how you were raised and I wouldn't have it any other way. I had placenta previa and bled 4 times before having to stay at the hospital for the remainder of my pregnancy. That lasted about 4 days because I bled 2 more times and had to have exsection at almost 31 weeks. Baby was in the NICU growing, no medical issues thank God, for 7 weeks. I'd rather not try again. We're happy with one and we don't have room in our house for another. I knew I always wanted one kid. Can't afford to have a second and I had bad postpartum. I'm at a good place in my life and I feel if I have another kid, I would be miserable. I'm happy with one. It's actually so fucking difficult, even with plenty of finances and support. From pregnancy to birth to baby phase, fuck me. We're 6.5 months in and we're happy, not doing that again. Had a healthy pregnancy but we had complications during delivery. I had an emergency C-section without any anesthesia and felt hurt everything. Had PTSD from the surgery afterwards, getting sliced open, hearing the anesthesiologist curse out my doctor, feeling them pull the baby out, and then not hearing my baby crying was pretty traumatic. Was told by my doctors my little girl would have trouble walking, talking and would have deficits from lack of oxygen. I prepared myself for a complete lifestyle change. New life with a disabled child. Thankfully my little girl beat the odds and she's doing wonderful but I have a deep fear of having another baby and not being as lucky. I'm happy the doctor didn't hesitate to take her out. She saved my baby in the end but that whole experience has made me and my husband stop at one child. You and your daughter are proper heroes. Well, it was twins. Also, they were born at 25 weeks and spent 6 months in the hospital. Never again. They are doing good now, totally toddler terrorists. We almost lost our son at 4 weeks. He's 13 now but his kidneys are already on their way out. He doesn't deserve such bad luck. We couldn't risk another poorly child so we called it at 1.